I don't know how it feels to you, but I was thinking about your first start in Seattle, which is probably like 5 months ago at this point, and I'm just curious what this whole journey has sort of been like for you, and sort of navigating the ups and downs of your rookie year, and to be sitting here where you are now.
Yeah, I'm super happy with the way the year's gone. Learned a lot of things, a lot of valuable lessons, and games I didn't throw too well. I'm always trying to learn something from each start and taking it to the next one, and just being able to learn from Robbie and some of the older guys. It's been super great, valuable for my career. And we've been playing good baseball, so it's fun to see.
Chris in the middle.
Can you even just put into perspective, what does it mean to you as a baseball player to get to start in a playoff game? And do you remember watching the playoffs as a kid as well?
Yeah, I'm super excited, especially going up against the Astros. Just ready to compete, and I dreamed about this as a kid, watching games. Honestly never thought it'd come true, but I'm glad I'm here, and worked hard for it, so glad Skip gave me the ball for Game 3.
Go in the middle.
Yeah, a similar question to what Chris just asked, the idea of not just pitching in the playoffs, but to do that first one in Seattle for the first playoff game they've had in town in 21 years, and it's you on the mound for that one. How cool is that part of it?
It's exciting, especially for the fans, too. It'd be great to see how the stadium's filled up, the crowd. I'm just really, super grateful to get that start and, bring some playoff baseball back to Seattle.
Go in the front row with Daniel.
Hey, George, how has your routine and preparation at all changed maybe over the past 2 weeks when you went to the bullpen role in Toronto and then, kind of figured that you would rejoin the rotation for this series?
Yeah. Wasn't throwing as many bullpens, kind of just doing throwing each day, getting ready to go out in the bullpen. Just Skip said, just be ready for whatever moment. So just getting loose every inning, trying to stay ready. It wasn't a whole lot different. I've done it before. It's just been a while. So, it was actually kind of cool to be back in that situation.
Go on the right with Corey.
George, not to beat a dead horse, but it feels like we haven't brought up your workload questions in a long time. But you have not just pushed past your innings limit from last year, you've completely obliterated it at this point. I'm just curious, physically, how you feel at this point. Your stuff doesn't look like it's suffered at all, stamina-wise and all that. But how have you sort of handled all that?
Yeah, I feel great. I think I've been just doing a great job recovering during the week, focus on my breathing, and just trying to get ready for each start or bullpen appearance. It's definitely a lot more than I've ever thrown before. I felt it in certain starts, but I've been able to find that last bit of energy when I needed it, and my body's been feeling great, so I'm ready to keep going.
We'll stay on the right with Adam.
Yeah, George, just looking back to Saturday in Toronto, what was that experience like for you, looking back a little bit, and how valuable can that be going into Saturday's start, sort of getting that first one out of the way?
Yeah, I was super pumped to get in that game. It didn't seem likely that I was going to throw that game, but we got a lot of fight in us, and everyone believed in that bullpen that we were going to come back in that game. So blood was flowing. I was super amped up. It's just really cool to make my first save in the postseason. I don't know. It's just a lot of emotions, and just glad I got it done.
Go in the front with Daniel.
George, you talked about taking something away from each start. You only made one outing against the Astros back in July. What can you kind of take away from that and to bring into your start on Saturday?
I just got to, I'm still going to be trying to throw strikes as much as I can, but I think it's going to be more quality and, strategic strikes, trying to hit the corners more often, get in the zone early. That way I can use my off-speed late and count. Just trying to keep them off balance. And when they get a guy on base, they're swinging. They're looking to get that guy in. So I just got to do what I can do to limit some good swings and just, like I said, keep them off balance.
We'll go in the back with Alyssa.
George, I'm just curious if there's anyone in on the Mariners team this year that's been really instrumental in helping you with either mentality or how to take on this role, especially either if it is earlier in the season or if it's later on, like as you're heading into this postseason appearance?
Robbie's been great. I mean, he's been playing for a while. He's just instilled a lot of confidence. You know, he's always talking to me after a good or bad start, just trying to, you know, throw ideas off each other, stuff like that. But Anna Bernero, mental skills guy, he's been huge for me. Breath work's been great, and that really allows me to just control myself on the mound and, you know, not make the moments too big and just be able to be even keel and, you know, stay chilled out and, you know, find some velo when I need it and do some different breathing stuff there. But yeah, those guys have been great.
All right, Corey.
George, I have to ask, are your boys going to be at T-Mobile Park? Ticket price has probably gone up a little bit here, and
Yeah.
as I imagine the ask on you to hook those guys up. But what are you expecting there?
Yeah, I helped out most of my family with the tickets, but I have heard from my buddies, so there will be a crew there. Not as big as the first time, but it'll be. I'm just really glad they're coming out and supporting me.
Going back, Larry.
George, you've twice mentioned breathing. Is that a technique you use to what, calm down, or what is it you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, your breath kind of controls everything in your body. You know, makes me be more aware. It makes me think better on the mound. Controls my body, how I'm moving. It's just super important to, you know, be aware of that and have that under control, because if you're not breathing well on the mound, you may not be thinking well. You're rushing, all that kind of stuff takes place. So being able to get a really good control of your breath has been super important for me the last couple of years.
Anyone else for George? All right, thanks for coming in, George.
Thank you.
start with Scott Servais. We'll start with Corey on the right.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Corey.
I'm curious, we just talked to George a few minutes ago, and certainly you didn't have a lot of deep history with him going into this year because he'd been in the minor leagues, but came up in May, and I'm just curious what some of the traits and things that you've learned about George. I think you've talked about what a strong competitor he is, but anything beyond that that's really stood out for you?
Personality-wise, it always takes a while to get guys to get comfortable and get to know a little bit like how they're wired. And it didn't take me long to figure out how George is wired. I think the first spring training outing he had this last year, and George is a strike thrower. He prides himself on that. And when he didn't get a couple calls from the umpire in his first outing of spring training, the first time he's ever pitched in big league camp, and he's staring down the umpire and yelling at him as he walks off the field, I'm like, this guy's pretty comfortable. He knows he belongs. So now he's obviously had a fantastic season, but getting to know him and how he's wired, very competitive. Talk about it all the time, but not just on the baseball field and everything he does. Very competitive on the golf course with his teammates, whatever it is, and he has fit in perfectly with our club. I know people early on wanted to compare him and Logan, but they are total opposites, personality-wise, and how they go about it, and that's great. That's what makes a team is, the differences in personalities and makeup. So, but yeah, that's what sticks out to me, just the competitiveness that he brings, and no matter what he's doing.
Go in the third row, Chris.
Can you talk a little bit about Dylan Moore? This is a guy that's basically done everything you've asked for him. He's in the lineup today. What's he meant to this team?
Yeah, it means a lot to our team. The versatility he brings on the defensive side, and he's made some really nice adjustments offensively this year. He's done the best job at any point in his career of controlling the strike zone, swinging at the right pitches, taking walks, just being a part of our offense. He had the real nice year during the COVID year in 2020 where he really swung the bat well. Allowed him to kind of work into more playing time last year in a starting role, and he struggled. He did, and but never really got down about it, understood that he would get other opportunities again, and he's been huge for us this year, filling in at shortstop, second base, anywhere in the outfield. He started games in center field, right field, left field. You're really comfortable putting him anywhere on the field other than pitcher or catcher, and he takes that. He takes a lot of pride in that, and not just being adequate at all those positions, but being really good at it. So those guys are invaluable, certainly this time of year, having movable pieces, and he runs the bases extremely aggressively and well on top of it. So perfect fit on our ball club.
Go in the green.
Scott, I don't mean to make us old here, but almost 30 years ago, I organized an Astros caravan visit to Sam Houston, and y'all came out to the baseball field there. I'd been a baseball player. Do you remember anything about that and what it meant to be part of the community? And I remember you working with our catchers and everything else like that as well.
Yeah, the old the Astros caravans. I made it all over the state of Texas in those back in the day. It's usually the young players that get roped into doing it and jumping on a bus and meeting fans and young players and doing different things. So that's part of the deal. I think it helps young players mature a little bit and dealing in that environment. We were all young at the time when I first started with the Astros. We were in a rebuild too. So I remember a lot of those things. I don't remember every visit to every ballpark I've ever been in the state of Texas, but like I mentioned earlier on, I started my career here, bought my first home in Houston, Sugar Land. My two older kids were born here, so there's a lot of ties to this area.
Go in the middle here.
Scott, yesterday you mentioned how the guys are just wanting to get out there, ready to roll. Another playoff opportunity today. How are they feeling when you talked to them this morning?
Yeah, our team looks about as normal as it ever has coming into a game, and it doesn't surprise me at all. You're going to have ups and downs throughout the course of a season. We've certainly lived both ends of the spectrum here in the last week or so. But today's another day. You got to get out, figure out how we're going to compete, how we're going to beat the Astros today, and handle Valdez and what he throws up there. So great pitching matchup today. Can't say enough about the two guys on the mound, how good they are, how deep they can work into the game. They've got different weapons, different ways to get you out through the course of a game. So it'll be a good challenge for both sides.
Listen back.
Hey, Scott, curious with George Kirby making the first start in Seattle, a postseason game for the first time since 2001. Why do you like him in that position, and what makes you confident he'll handle it well?
I don't think the moment gets too big for George, and no matter where you throw it at. I think we saw a little bit of that in Toronto, how he handled that situation. George is George. He knows what he's about and who he is on the mound, and that's throwing a ton of strikes. And he's added pitches to his repertoire. He's become a better pitcher here over the last, I would say, 2 months than he's ever been. And understand that you need to make adjustments throughout the course of the game and whatnot. But with everything that's going to be thrown upon him, you got to lean on young guys. Those are the guys who got us here. You know, why not? Ton of confidence in him. Our whole coaching staff does. Our whole team does. He's not wavered. He just takes the ball, gets up there, and keeps filling up the strike zone. So love having him out there whenever he's out there. Take that with being super competitive, and he'll be just fine.
Anyone else for Scott? All right. Thanks
Just
for coming in.
Thank you.